Well, I got some more Calgary Stampeders off-season news, and I'm going to say this definitely is big enough to warrant making a video on it. Either it's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And the off-season after the 2024 season continues in the CFL and the Calgary Stampeders. Well, I got some major news to report. Literally a couple days before Christmas, as well, last month when the Calgary Stampeders made a trade with the BC Lions to acquire Vernon Adams Jr. and did sign PJ Walker to a couple-year two-year deal as well to be the, I guess you could say, the number 2 quarterback that was on the negotiation list. And with pending unrestricted free agents, all quarterbacks on the roster, it pretty much meant that Jake Maier would likely not be coming back to the Calgary Stampeders, and he actually is not going to be coming back to the Calgary Stampeders for the 2025 season. As clue with some green, Jake Maier is, at least his contractual rights, that the Calgary Stampeders, and I saw both from the team and on the CFL website that the Calgary Stampeders meant to say traded away quarterback Jake Maier. He is going to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. In exchange, the Calgary Stampeders, I did see first from the team website, the Calgary Stampeders website, said a conditional draft pick, but the CFL.ca actually said an 8th round pick in the 2025 draft. So essentially, Jake Maier is going to now the Saskatchewan Roughriders exchange for an 8th round pick in this upcoming draft. And essentially, how I look at this trade is that the Calgary Stampeders are essentially recouping an asset for someone who is likely not going to be coming back, as Jake Maier, I'm going to say he's a good quarterback, but not someone that you can see and say we're going to win the Grey Cup with him, at least not at this stage of his career. And the fact that we only won 11 games the last 2 seasons warrant the changes that were made, where we went out and got Vernon Adams Jr. because he was available from the BC Lions, and Jake Maier was likely going to sign somewhere else for the 2025 season. Well, this is a way that the Saskatchewan Roughriders can have a jump on getting his negotiating rights, and I'm going to assume, February 11th is the day when free agency opens for the 2025 season, that when teams can sign him. So the Saskatchewan Roughriders have, let's say, roughly 6 weeks to get a contract signed to Jake Maier. And I'm going to say, from the Saskatchewan Roughriders point of view, the fact that they were able to lock up Trevor Harris for this season, I'm going to say this provides some with some more insurance option behind Trevor Harris, because he did spend some time injured this past season. And I'm going to say Jake Maier can be a 1B option, or definitely a backup, in a case if, let's say, Trevor Harris has lost a step or having a rough drive or injured, or just to shake things up, have another option. Jake Maier definitely is an upgrade over Shea Patterson and I think it was John Cronin, who were quarterbacks for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So I'm going to say Saskatchewan did fairly well, at least get his rights and try to sign pen to paper. Well, I think for the Calgary Stampeders, I think it was likely we were going to move on and make changes, where I mentioned Vernon Adams Jr. is going to be the starting quarterback for Calgary in 2025, and already got his contract restructured. And they seem to be, I keep mentioning high on PJ Walker, has no CFL experience, but neither did Jake Maier. He didn't have any CFL experience when he had his first professional start, when Bo was injured. And speaking of Bo Levi Mitchell, Jake Maier had kind of that inevitable task of being that guy replacing the legend. As I mean, he did fill in when Bo was injured in 2021. Had three straight 300-yard seasons, or three straight 300-yard games, as I meant to say, in passing. And that was actually the first in CFL history for a quarterback who threw over 300 yards in three straight starts for their first three starts. So he looked like we had a backup, and then Bo Levi Mitchell looked like he was declining and couldn't stay healthy, and he was struggling throughout 2022, where just before Labor Day, it was a week before Labor Day that, he took over in the second half, and I believe that game was in Toronto. And from that forward, up until the Labor Day rematch this past season, Jake Maier was the starting quarterback all for the rest of 2022, the 2023 season, and 2024 up until the Labor Day rematch, because he wasn't doing so well this past season. I think he started, I think it was like 37 straight games, and it was the second longest streak in franchise history for the Calgary Stampeders, only behind Henry Burris. And keep in mind, this team had a Doug Flutie or Jeff Garcia or Dave Dickinson at quarterback, but I mean, Flutie, he also did spend some time injured, and then Jeff Garcia, as mentioned, he had some shorter career between when he took over for Doug Flutie, and then the fact that he had NFL interest in some injuries as well. So this is a sign that Jake Maier, I'm going to say we hadn't had anyone better to supplant him at starter, but he's been able to stay healthy, because there was never really a time other than during the COVID season that the only time Jake Maier was, you could say, injured was when he was sick with COVID, but that was when Bo was still here. But he hasn't been injured in terms of broken bones or torn whatever. But I'm going to say, for the Calgary Stampeders point of view, this definitely answers more questions about what we're doing at quarterback next season. I think we've upgraded our starting position with Vernon Adams Jr., but the wild card is, how is PJ Walker going to pan out? From his NFL experience, never playing in the CFL, he was on a negotiating list and was on the practice roster the last month of the season, and getting acclimatized to Calgary and the team and the culture, and did sign. And then all the other quarterbacks that Calgary had on the roster that are free agents, so I don't think Matt Schultz is going to return now. Probably, maybe Tommy Stevens, if they're only going to use him as a short yardage runner, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Calgary maybe signs another veteran quarterback somewhere to be the third stringer. And then Logan Bonner, I mean, he only had that one start, which he is thrown in a tough situation and threw 5 interceptions in the Labor Day rematch. So, well, there's going to be wild cards on after Vernon Adams Jr. What is the backup depth on that? And then I think Saskatchewan, their quarterback depth is now stronger with Trevor Harris and now Jake Maier, and I'm going to assume maybe Shea Patterson already gained some starts in, reps in with Saskatchewan this past season. But let's take a look at the career numbers for Jake Maier. His whole time professionally in the CFL has been with the Calgary Stampeders. Yeah, I mean, he'll be 28 next season, as he's still a younger quarterback. I can still see potentially maybe a change of senior for him could do him well, and maybe learn from another veteran. He learned obviously from Bo here in Calgary before he ultimately took over, and then he learned from another grizzled vet in Trevor Harris. But his statistics all with Calgary, I mean, between he technically was on the roster for 2020, but we didn't have a season for what happened. But from 2021 to 2024, he did dress in 65 games. He started 45 games. He started 3 in 2021, as mentioned, for the injured Bo, and threw over 300 yards all 3 of those games. And then he started in 9 games in 2022, so it was halfway through the season that eventually Dave Dickinson made the call that Jake Maier is now the starter over Bo. And at that time, it I understand the decision that Bo was getting older. It was a lot more expensive because he was established. It looked like he couldn't stay healthy, and it wasn't until this past season with Hamilton that he had a resurgence. Still has 1 more year left. And then he started all 18 games in 2023. Then he still wound up starting 15 games this past season. There was 2 games that Matt Schultz started down the stretch, and as well Logan Bonner that 1 game, and then Jake Maier did play the final game of the regular season on the road in Saskatchewan. And Jake Maier has always played fairly well against Saskatchewan, so maybe it's kind of the same reason why we acquired Vernon Adams Jr. is tired the quarterback playing well against us, so we might as well have him. So as I mentioned, he started 45 games, dressed for 65 the Calgary Stampeders. He has completed 1,022 passes on 1,497 attempts for 68.3 passing percentage, so not too bad. He's thrown for over 11,685 yards. Obviously with the Calgary Stampeders with 60 touchdowns and 39 interceptions, and his rating was 94 even. And then he ran for 232 yards on 60 attempts, and he did score 5 touchdowns rushing, fumbled 10, lost 4 of them. And then when it comes to the playoffs, so he did start in 2 playoff games, the 2021 and 2022 was where he played. He dressed in the 2021 West semifinal when we lost to Saskatchewan. In Saskatchewan, Bo played, but it's the 2022-2023 West semifinals, as I meant to say, that he started, lost both of them against the BC Lions with Vernon Adams Jr. or 2023, and then Nathan Rourke in 2022. In the 2 playoff games that he started in, he was 35 for 56 in passing, so a 62.5 passer percentage, so it wasn't as good for 442 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, for a rating of only 84.1, and then he only ran for 7 yards and 2 carries for 2 in those playoff games. So all I'm going to remember Jake Maier with the Calgary Stampeders is he did fill in admirably when Bo was injured in 2021. I remember I was nervous early that season when Bo was injured, and we thought at that time, because he had a Michael O'Connor, the Canadian quarterback, on the roster, that at first it said he was going to start, and then Dave Dickett said, no, Jake Maier is going to start, and there was the mystery of the 2021 season that there was no preseason, so never saw Jake play in any preseason. He did play with in California with the Aggies, and had some success down there in college ball, but many quarterbacks have had great success in college to come here and either be successful or not so successful. I'm going to say he definitely is not going to be up there with one of the greats. I'm going to say, I'm always going to personally say Doug Flutie is the best quarterback to ever play for the Calgary Stampeders, and Bo's second, and then up there with Jeff Garcia or Henry Burris or, Pete Lisk, or Jerry Keeling. I don't think he's going to be in that category, but I'm going to say he was a good quarterback. He kind of reminds me a lot of Marcus Crandall, where he has flashes in the pan that he looks good, and then he doesn't look good. And yes, we did win the Grey Cup with Marcus Crandall in 2001, but I'm going to say I always look back on that team as Calgary underachieved for much of that season. Had some injuries, came together at the right time in November, and we were still coached by Wally Buono and how we prepared the team. And then every football game is always determined on 4 or 5 big plays. And I remember looking back to that Grey Cup, which would have been the 89th Grey Cup, that Marcus Crandall had that long bomb to Mark Boerter late in the first half to give Calgary a big lead, and then we blocked the punt for a touchdown. And I remember the kicker for Winnipeg at the time, Troy Westwood, he missed 2 field goals, I believe, and Calgary won that game by 8 points. And if those field goals were made, it could have been different football games. So that's how, say, we one with Marcus Crandall, and then this past Grey Cup, Nick Arbuckle, the former Stampeder, when he won the Grey Cup with the Toronto Argonauts. But I give my breakdown on what happened in that game. I mean, I could see maybe one time, let's say if Jake Maier has a long career, and I still think he could have a long career in the Canadian Football League, either, as a 1B, or maybe, a few more years he could develop and be a reliable, better than good starter. Because, he's going to be 28 next season, that maybe I could see him lead a team to Grey Cup, and not necessarily saying that his time being a Calgary Stampeder is over. He could potentially maybe come back down the road, you never know. But I'm going to say right now, let's see how he does in Saskatchewan. And if you're a Rider fan and you're watching this, how do you feel about this move? I think, from someone who cheers for Calgary, I think Jake Maier needs a change of scenery. I think with the decisions that the team has made this season going into 2025, that he has a better opportunity now in Saskatchewan, start fresh, learn still from a veteran on the twilight of his career, and provide more support if need be through injuries or performance or that. And the fact that he will have some familiarity with Corey Mason and Mark Mueller, former coaches that were here in Calgary, are now in Saskatchewan. But I say this is an upgrade for Calgary in terms of just getting an asset and decisions we made in Saskatchewan, assuming that they do sign him. To get an upgrade this, they have some more proven depth. So that's how I feel about this trade, that it is just basically recouping an asset, and a lot of teams have already made their decisions on starters, but backups is usually the next thing, and it's proven many times that you need more than just one stud quarterback. It helps to have a star quarterback, but if he's having a bad game or gets injured, as we just saw the case with the Toronto Argonauts, you need someone who can come in and just do the job and manage the game and still win. And Calgary's had that luxury, over the years, and I'm going to say this is the first time to have a guy replacing a legend that wasn't another legend himself at this stage, but still put up big numbers. But I'm going to say I just felt that we had a good quarterback, but not someone that I'm going to say, we're serious about contending, and that's why the decisions are made. So as I close out, as I want to say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I have my other social links down in the description below. Say for Jake Maier, best of luck in Saskatchewan, minus when you're playing the Stampeders, of course. And he did make a post about how he was thankful for his time in Calgary, and I think if they have like a little welcome back when he comes back to Calgary next season, I think most people will still cheer for him. And he had his first child here in Calgary, so there's that connection as well, and it started his professional career. So thanks for everything you've done for Calgary, Jake Maier. Obviously you've been better if I said you won us a few Grey Cups and MLPs, but I guess you can't be too spoiled, right? So I'll say go Scouts go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.